Judge orders Naomi Campbell's arrest. After George Clooney turns on her. The courtroom lights were cold. Naomi Campbell stood tall, flawless in posture, but stiff. It wasn't the runway this time, it was a federal hearing. Behind her, the gallery buzzed. Reporters whispered. Camera shutters clicked from outside. The biggest headline wasn't Diddy anymore. It was her. A woman once hailed as the queen of fashion, now under the spotlight for allegations far darker than tabloid drama. Kash Patel adjusted his tie, glancing at the prosecutor beside him. This wasn't just another celebrity case. This was a key to a network, and she was the entry point. Court is now in session, the bailiff announced. Naomi barely blinked. The allegations weren't vague, they were surgical, documented. Dates, wire transfers, encrypted messages. Kash began his opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about control hidden behind couture. Ms. Campbell used her global fame not to inspire, but to ensnare. He laid it out clearly, a web of coercion operating under the guise of charity, fashion for relief. The Supermodel's global charity project was allegedly a front. Not completely fake, but deeply compromised. From 2016 to 2022, it raised $4.8 million. But less than 9% reached charitable causes. Where did the rest go? The evidence suggested high-end travel, private spa treatments, luxury hotels, and worse, financial ties to powerful men across political and business spheres, some of whom were already on Epstein's radar, including Democratic figures like Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, and Chuck Schumer. But most chilling of all was the personal recruitment pattern. Women, models, assistants, invited to events under pretenses of charity and career, only to be redirected. To whom that's what today was about. Kash paced slowly in front of the jury. You'll hear from whistleblowers inside her organization, from financial officers in the UK, from victims who thought they were walking into a career launch and walked out broken. Naomi leaned into her lawyer, whispered something. Her eyes didn't leave Kash. He continued. You'll also see proof that Ms. Campbell was not acting alone. This was a joint effort with Mr. Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, and other yet-to-be-named elites. A murmur spread through the courtroom. The judge called for silence. Kash held up a tablet. On screen was a single document, a page from an internal email marked confidential. The subject line, Coordination for High-Value Guest Management, Cannes, 2018. The recipient, Naomi Campbell. The sender, KK Christina, a former assistant under both Diddy and Naomi's overlapping circles. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, protesters began to gather. Some held signs that read, Fashion for Relief, Fashion for Deceit. Others listed the names of suspected abusers. At the center of the crowd, a woman named Lacey, a former model. She held a photo of herself at age 19 beside Naomi. She told me I'd be a star, Lacey told a reporter. She put me on a plane instead. Back in the courtroom, Kash called his first witness. Margaret Dean, former financial officer for the Fashion for Relief UK division. Sworn in, she began without hesitation. We were told to list personal travel as logistics, jewelry shipments as security. I flagged it, but the reports vanished. Vanished where? To a private server managed from New York. I was told Naomi wanted to control the narrative. The prosecution brought up travel expenses, $16,500 flight London to Nice, $10,490 luxury hotel, $9,000 spa charges, not for beneficiaries, for Naomi and unnamed donors. The jury scribbled notes. Kash clicked to another slide. This isn't about money, it's about access. You'll hear how this network connected models to billionaires. How it used charity galas to recruit. How those names trace back not just to Diddy, but to Epstein's infamous files. Naomi's team objected. Speculative, her attorney said. The judge allowed the line. The prosecution rested their day, one case with one final image. a table chart connecting Naomi Diddy, K.K. Epstein, and 3 unnamed Democratic donors. Power Cash said, thrives in silence. This trial is the end of that silence. Naomi didn't speak, but her stillness said enough. She wasn't in control, and that for the first time terrified her. The courtroom buzzed with an air of disbelief as the second day of Naomi Campbell's federal hearing unfolded. The morning began not with evidence, but with murmurs. Kash Patel, lead federal prosecutor and former intelligence official, walked into the court flanked by agents. His focus was laser-sharp. Today's testimony, he knew, could blow the lid off a hidden empire. The focus, a former aide turned whistleblower Anita Ellis, who once coordinated events for Fashion for Relief. Under oath, she recounted late-night calls, cryptic financial instructions, and directives that blurred the line between glamour and exploitation. Naomi told me which guests got special treatment. Anita said, her voice steady. It wasn't just about donations, it was about who had power. She described a party in Monaco where celebrities mingled with anonymous billionaires. Some were government-linked, others rumors claimed were foreign intelligence assets. Several names later confirmed to match donors to Democratic Party super PACs. Anita continued, the girls were chosen beforehand. Not models invited guests flown in. They were told they'd meet benefactors for networking. It wasn't networking. A collective intake of breath rippled through the courtroom. Campbell sat upright, unflinching, but her jaw tightened. Kash Patel seized the moment. Let the record show, he said, that this is no longer a question of charity mismanagement. This is about leveraging fame to build a system of procurement for elites. The judge overruled defense objections. Proceed, he said grimly. Evidence followed: encrypted emails, ticket manifest payment orders labeled under vague names, artist services, logistics, brand liaison. An accountant from the Charity Commission in the UK took the stand next. His testimony was brutal. Only 8.5% of nearly £5 million raised went to charity. The rest undocumented, discretionary, or frivolous. He described how invoices for luxury hotels, private jets, and spa treatments had been flagged. In one instance, $16,500 was spent transporting jewelry and art for a Cannes gala. No charitable purpose was identified, he stated, and the rest asked cash. The accountant looked at his papers. Roughly $535,000 has been recovered. The rest is considered unrecoverable or hidden. A pin-drop silence. Suddenly, a new name entered the record: George Clooney. A text chain was introduced into evidence. Naomi Campbell had allegedly tried to use her connection with the actor to gain access to a senior U.S. intelligence official. Clooney declined, politely but firmly. The text read, "This isn't the way, Naomi. You don't need to go this far." The subtext was clear. Campbell was trying to shift her sphere of influence from fashion into politics, and her methods were unsettling. Kash Patel turned the moment into a fulcrum. She was denied by Clooney, denied by donors with standards, but not denied by everyone. On cue, he displayed photographs of Naomi at various private dinners, with Gavin Newsom, Chuck Schumer, and even a young Joe Biden. The implication: access, influence, maybe leverage. She knew what they liked and who to send. Campbell's defense erupted in protest, but the judge allowed the material to remain, citing its relevance under federal RICO provisions. And then Patel played a clip. It was a surveillance recording from a London hotel suite. Naomi wasn't in the room, but her voice was heard. "She'll be there at 10. Be nice." The girl in question, anonymous, but later verified as a witness, was 18 at the time. Back in court, Campbell's mask cracked, if only for a second. Her eyes shifted. Her fingers tapped her knee. Her composure, though practiced, was no longer flawless. In the gallery, Elon Musk took his seat. He had arrived quietly but deliberately. A surprise witness, a supporter of the prosecution, no one knew. What everyone understood, however, was that this wasn't just about one supermodel anymore. This was a network, a method, a machine again. Just as with Diddy, the pattern was repeating, except this time Kash Patel wasn't letting anyone off the hook. The courtroom adjourned at 4:45 p.m., but no one moved. Phones buzzed. Reporters whispered. And outside a crowd began chanting, "She named the names, now face the truth." As the third day of Naomi Campbell's trial began, the court braced for a storm. Rumors of new witnesses swirled, and security doubled at the courthouse. Kash Patel had promised international implications, and the media, already in a frenzy, prepared for a global spectacle. The session opened with a surprise motion from the prosecution. Patel introduced a sealed dossier titled Project Satyr. The document had originated from a foreign intelligence asset embedded in the European luxury scene. Its contents, records of Naomi Campbell's travel itineraries and guest lists matching names from both the Epstein flight logs and Diddy's inner circle. The judge allowed partial disclosure. The courtroom screen flashed with dates and locations: Ibiza, Marrakesh, Mykonos, where elite gatherings blurred the lines between charity celebrity and trafficking. Overlaying the maps were photos Campbell with Diddy, Campbell with Jay-Z, and even a shot of Campbell with a well-known royal figure face redacted. Patel wasted no time drawing connections. He showed how Naomi's Fashion for Relief events became unofficial recruiting zones. Invoices and flight records placed several models at both fashion events and private estate gatherings days apart. Then came the shock. A former assistant to Jay-Z, appearing under anonymity, took the stand. Her testimony shook the room. Naomi introduced Jay to certain people. Not for music, for access, for parties that weren't about fashion or film. "What kind of parties?" Patel asked. The assistant hesitated. "Private, controlled, no cameras. Guests signed NDAs. The women were models, some underage, some not." Campbell's lawyers objected furiously. The judge overruled. The assistant continued. Naomi handled introductions. She arranged logistics. She called it curating the vibe. But it wasn't just vibes. It was selection. The word hung heavy in the room. Next, a financial analyst testified. She tracked payments funneled through Campbell's side ventures to a cluster of shell companies. One of them, Artesia Blue Limited, was linked to accounts that funded both Epstein's and Diddy's private events. Patel highlighted a transaction trail. Naomi's brand paid for venue deposits. The shell account paid for transportation. Another covered appearance fees. 3 steps removed, but all connected. At this point, Elon Musk requested to address the court as an amicus witness. The judge granted 5 minutes. Musk composed, but resolute, confirmed that Tesla's internal AI had flagged several high-profile individuals, including Campbell, based on pattern recognition across Epstein-associated data. "This isn't just coincidence," Musk said. "It's convergence," and Naomi was a hub. He concluded by citing Naomi's known outreach to political circles, her attempt to broker a meeting through George Clooney with a senior Democratic figure. Court records verified the attempt. The official declined. The defense called the motion speculative, but the weight of cumulative testimony had already shifted perception. By mid-afternoon, Patel dropped another bomb. "Let's talk about the Bidens." Gasps erupted. He produced an email chain between Campbell and an unnamed Biden aide. The content was vague, but Patel underscored the timeline, days before a closed-door event in Los Angeles, where multiple individuals from Naomi's circle were in attendance, including a former vice president. Though the court redacted the specific names, the implication was thunderous. Kash concluded the day with one final image, a group shot from 2018. Naomi, Jay-Z, Diddy, and Gavin Newsom all smiling, flanked by women whose identities were now central to the prosecution. "It's not about glamour," Patel said. "It's about access, and what was done with it." Naomi Campbell stared straight ahead. The mask hadn't just slipped, it had cracked. Outside headlines screamed. Inside the network, once global, golden, and untouchable, was beginning to fray. As Naomi Campbell returned to the courtroom for the fourth session of the trial, the media swarm outside swelled. Protesters shouted slogans, waving placards with both accusations and declarations of innocence. Naomi's face, once a symbol of fashion royalty, now marked a cultural reckoning. Inside, Kash Patel resumed his barrage. Today he focused on the intricate web of money favors and political leverage. He began with the charity. Documents from the UK's Charity Commission were entered into evidence. They outlined the discrepancies in Fashion for Relief's finances. Between 2016 and 2022, the charity raised nearly $4.8 million, yet only 8.5%, a mere fraction, went to charitable causes. Patel narrated the spending trail. Luxury hotel stays, personal spa treatments, and art shipments, disguised as event expenses. The most damning $13,000 on a 3-night stay at Hotel de Cap Eden Rock, and nearly $9,000 for a private spa retreat. She used the guise of philanthropy to finance an elite lifestyle, Patel argued. Not once, but consistently, over years. The court fell silent. Then Patel introduced internal emails from the Fashion for Relief planning team. One exchange showed Naomi instructing staff to ensure VIPs are fully entertained and satisfied. No press, full discretion. A former logistics coordinator for the events testified next. Under immunity, she confirmed Naomi handpicked female attendees for private after-parties. Some were models. Others were scouted via Instagram. All were expected to comply. When asked what compliance meant, the witness whispered, "Whatever pleased the guests." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. The day turned darker. Patel transitioned to the political connections. He revealed Naomi's attempts to gain favor with top Democratic officials, using George Clooney as a conduit. Court-subpoenaed communications showed Naomi seeking introductions to a senior political operator in the Biden team. The message was clear: Naomi wanted political access. The request was declined, but not forgotten. Rejection didn't stop her, Patel said. It only rerouted her strategy. A second witness, a former campaign fundraiser, testified about receiving a gift bag after a Fashion for Relief gala. Inside, an invitation to a closed-door event in Malibu with a handwritten note from Naomi. It read, "Power belongs to those who network at night." The witness, unnerved, declined to attend. Then came perhaps the most shocking moment. Patel introduced an encrypted audio clip from a confiscated burner phone, recovered during an unrelated narcotics sting. The voice was unmistakably Naomi's. She was heard coordinating schedules for a high-level mixer in Monaco, explicitly referencing Democratic donors and tech executives. "She's not just a participant," Patel said. "She's a strategist." The defense scrambled. They attempted to discredit the audio citing chain of custody issues, but the damage was done. The jury had heard her voice discussing logistics, guests, payments. By midday, the courtroom mood was electric. Then it darkened again. Patel summoned an unexpected ally. Elon Musk returned this time, presenting analytics compiled by X's internal forensic AI. The system had tracked 47 individuals across Naomi's events, matching patterns with Epstein flight logs and international trafficking routes. A map appeared: New York, Cannes, Zurich, Singapore. Dotted lines connected Naomi's fashion shows to shadow gatherings. "It's not a guess," Musk said. "It's data. Patterns of mobility, repeated intersections. This isn't coincidence." He ended by suggesting that several known individuals in government had been named in confidential cross-reference documents, names he could not yet reveal due to legal limitations. But his final words rang clear: "If Naomi falls, others will follow." The judge called a recess. Naomi's expression was unreadable. Outside, the news exploded. Naomi Campbell named in political access scandal. Back in the courtroom, Patel resumed with quiet force. He introduced an anonymous testimony from a model, Lena, who described being groomed through Naomi's network. Promises of career advancement were followed by coerced dinners with friends of influence. She recounted a night in Cannes where she was instructed to be charming to a visiting foreign dignitary. He was with Naomi, Lena said in a video deposition. She said, "I had to play the game." The prosecution rested the day with a chilling monologue from Patel. "This isn't about fashion, it's about power. It's about trafficking influence. From the runways of Paris to the war rooms of Washington, Naomi Campbell isn't a socialite, she's a gatekeeper." The gallery sat stunned. Naomi did not speak, but the weight of silence once again spoke volumes. The next morning the court buzzed with speculation. Naomi arrived flanked by lawyers, her expression tight. If she felt pressure, she concealed it behind designer sunglasses and silence. Kash Patel, however, was energized. Today he promised the public would see the first cracks in the higher structure. He began with a chart titled "The Gatekeeper's Web." "This isn't about a few bad nights," he said. "This is about systemic control coercion, masquerading as glamour." Displayed on the screen was a network diagram showing Naomi Campbell at the center. Radiating outward were Node's event planners, social media scouts, fashion moguls, and several unnamed political advisors. At the periphery, red flags marked connections to Epstein's former associates, as well as to embattled figures like Diddy and Russell Simmons. Jay-Z's name appeared. The courtroom gasped. Patel turned toward the jury. "We are not suggesting guilt by proximity. We are demonstrating influence by participation." He introduced communication records, encrypted signal messages, traced back to Naomi's former assistant. One conversation discussed coordinating an elite experience for a closed gathering in the Hamptons. Jay-Z was listed among the invitees. The assistant referenced a request from Naomi. "Ensure the girls are briefed. We don't need repeats of Ibiza." The implication past incidents had turned problematic. Then came the bombshell. Patel introduced another witness, an intelligence contractor turned whistleblower. He testified anonymously behind a voice-modulating screen. His role had been cyber surveillance for private clients, including a European tech magnate connected to Naomi's events. "I was tasked with pattern recognition, digital trails, flight logs, burner phones, transient hotel Wi-Fi pings. The algorithm highlighted recurring overlaps. Same people, same cities, same nights." He showed that Naomi's events consistently intersected with locations of political summits and global economic forums. In one instance, she allegedly arranged a private yacht event off the coast of Davos during the World Economic Forum. Then came Lena's diary. The young model's handwritten notes, presented as evidence, detailed multiple encounters arranged by Naomi's team. One entry read, "Told I was going to meet Clooney. Ended up with someone else, rich, older. Was told, smile, be useful." The reference to George Clooney caught fire in the media, but Patel clarified that Clooney had declined involvement. This isn't about Clooney. This is about how far Naomi tried to go. She wanted to breach politics. When turned away, she recalibrated. Court took a break. The crowd outside grew tenfold. After recess, Elon Musk returned. He revealed a cross-referenced archive, combining Naomi's travel records with Epstein's. He explained that X had used predictive patterning, confirming 72% event overlap across 5 years. And these aren't just overlaps in geography, Musk said. They are aligned in purpose. Private dinners, non-disclosure enforced meetings, guest lists that disappear within hours. Then came the mention of Biden. Patel revealed confidential emails obtained via whistleblower disclosure. One from a top Democratic fundraiser mentioned Naomi's event in Cannes. She claims the vice president will send a message of support. We should clarify what that means. The implication Naomi used, proximity to power as leverage. Naomi's team objected vehemently. This is conjecture, they argued, circumstantial. The judge allowed it for context. Then came the financials. Banking statements from offshore accounts tied to Fashion for Relief showed donations from controversial international figures, several linked to sanctioned regimes. Patel pointed out the lack of due diligence. Either Naomi didn't know, or she didn't care. Another witness, an accountant, formerly employed by Fashion for Relief, testified that Naomi had instructed her to filter expenses creatively. She said, "As long as it looks good in the photos, no one reads the receipts." A media analyst took the stand next. She testified that during key events, multiple trending hashtags related to the charity had been artificially inflated, using bots originating from known influence farms. The goal-shaped perception control narrative. Then came the final piece. A series of video snippets showing Naomi at private dinners with Gavin Newsom, Chuck Schumer, and unnamed international elites. In one clip, she raised a glass and toasted to access. The one true currency. The room went silent. Kash Patel ended the day with a warning. You are witnessing the slow unmasking of power. Not the type shown on red carpets. The kind traded in shadows, leveraged through beauty silence and calculated charm. Naomi looked pale. For the first time, her poise cracked. She whispered something to her lawyer. Her hands trembled. The day adjourned. The headlines exploded. And somewhere in Washington, phones began to ring. The next morning, tension returned like a storm cloud over the courthouse. Naomi Campbell entered under tighter security than ever before. Gone were the sunglasses. Her expression was drawn, fatigued. Kash Patel stood beside a tall wheeled cart filled with evidence binders, his energy unwavering. He opened with the money trail. Patel presented a timeline, overlaying donations to Fashion for Relief against luxury expenses. New details included $3,800 spent at a high-end spa in Monaco, hours after a charity gala. $24,000 in flights between Milan, Doha, and Dubai, within 10 days coded under outreach. $200 billed to the charity for personal security, all used for a private retreat in the Seychelles. He then played a clip. Naomi, in a private Zoom call with a prominent political consultant, is seen discussing influence. Image buys silent, she says. If they see you with the right people, they don't ask who you're really with. The video ended. The courtroom remained frozen. The prosecution's next witness was introduced only as Mr. Fox, an IT security expert formerly contracted by an intelligence watchdog. Fox had traced deleted records from a defunct Fashion for Relief server. He recovered metadata showing guest lists edited hours after events. Payments split into coded categories like media flowers and cultural exchange. Names scrubbed aliases replacing real donors, including references to GN and SS initials, aligning with Gavin Newsom and Chuck Schumer. The judge demanded verification. Patel passed sealed documentation. After a moment's deliberation, the judge allowed limited exposure. The crowd stirred. Kash Patel then called an ex-fashion assistant. Tearfully, she testified Naomi once instructed her to take care of a hesitant attendee. She said, "Just get her drunk enough to stay. No one wants drama. We smile. We host. We serve the moment." Then, the deeper political ties emerged. Emails between Naomi's team and a former DNC aide revealed a recurring offer, exclusive access to events for soft introductions to investors. A reply from the aide stated, "We can't risk exposure. Too much heat after Maxwell. Keep her on standby." A separate chain showed Naomi reaching out via a mutual contact to George Clooney, offering to arrange a closed-door dinner with a senior EU official. Clooney declined. In his reply, "Naomi, I appreciate your ambition, but this isn't the path. Politics doesn't need performance right now." Patel paused. She was denied entry into the world of policy, so she built her own corridor of power. Elon Musk then took the stand again. His team had built a new mapping tool, Project Radiant. Using AI to compare Naomi's social presence with Epstein's network, it highlighted 87 high-level overlaps in travel social circles and event production. One chart glowed with red intersections. Musk pointed to the top. Naomi Campbell's logistical footprint matches Epstein's movements within a 48-hour proximity, 61 times between 2014 and 2020. That's not random. The judge requested cross-validation. Musk handed over technical documents. The defense silent. Then came the coup de grace. Kash Patel introduced a final witness, Christina KK. Formerly silent, KK had reached out via federal protection. Her testimony was taken in private earlier that week. A video was shown with voice and face obscured. I did it all. Bookings, hotel aliases. I managed who saw what. I saw money come from places it shouldn't. Naomi gave me lists, VIPs, girls' dates. Sometimes Epstein was already there. The room fell into complete stillness. She continued. I once asked her why she kept risking this. She said, because I'm untouchable. I've modeled power itself. Kash Patel turned to the jury. No one is untouchable. The judge announced the trial would enter final arguments the following week. Naomi sat quietly. All her world's fashion, fame, politics now stood converged, and on the edge of collapse. Outside, the headlines didn't just call it a trial, they called it a reckoning.